You're watching another great interview on Audio Inc. Radio. What is up? It's Anne Erickson with Audio Inc. Radio. It is awesome to have you here, and if you're brand new, welcome. Please subscribe, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. The great Wolf Hoffman of Accept is our guest, and we have a lot of great stuff to get into. Let's get in.
Hey guys, this is Wolf Hoffman on Audio Inc. Radio with Anne Erickson. Metal.
What's going on? It's Anne Erickson with Audio Inc. Radio, and very happy to be here with the legendary Wolf Hoffman. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm hanging in. How have things been for you during this, crazy time?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, it's been definitely crazy this year. We've all been, stuck at home. We wanted to be out on tour all summer long, and we couldn't. I mean, the good thing was we could finish the album relatively relaxed because all of a sudden everybody was at home. Everybody had time to work on the album. So that's good, including our producer. He was available and all that kind of stuff. But in general, it's not been a good year for metal because of the touring.
Right.
It's been super hard.
Definitely. But it's great that you do have this record on the way, Too Mean to Die. So that's a great title, first of all.
Do you like it? Yeah. We wanted to make a sort of a lighthearted statement about these crazy times that we live in. It's not a serious title by any means. And we've already had a song called Pandemic several years ago. We've also had an album called The Rise of Chaos, and all that kind of described the current situation anyhow. So we thought Too Mean to Die would be a good statement in these crazy times.
That's great. And you have released so many records with Accept, and you guys are always just switching it up and very creative. So how do you come up with fresh ideas year after year?
Well, how do you do it? I guess you just have to sit down and start writing stuff. It just doesn't come flying towards you. I literally have to sit there for weeks at a time and just collect ideas that interest me, and after a while songs take shape. But it's nothing like, I'm not Mozart that wakes up and has a complete song in his head, or symphony in his case. It's just not like that. Just gotta force yourself a little bit to it. I've always heard about book writers, or they do it the same way. They just go into their little writing room and they force themselves to come up with material. And I guess when you do that, eventually ideas start flying. But it's a mysterious process. You don't really ever know where it came from, but all of a sudden you have something that you didn't have a few minutes earlier. It's great.
I love the heaviness of this record, and I'm wondering, is that something that you set out to do, that you wanted to do a really heavy record, or did it just kind of happen?
These sort of things happen on automatically, or they don't. But no, you can't really plan that. You can't really say to yourself, now I'm going to make a heavy record, or now I'm going to make a less heavy record, or whatever. It's just never works that way. At the same time as you can't say, now I'm going to write a hit or something. It doesn't work that way. You try to write the best you can, and then it is what it is. And and then the fans kind of decide how it is, and they are really the determining factor. We as an artist, you don't really have any idea of what you just did. You just have a little bit of an inner voice that tells you that you like it yourself, but other than that, you have no reference whatsoever. You just write stuff and you hope for the best.
How did the pandemic kind of influence the writing on this record, if at all?
And the writing wasn't really influenced at all, because writing is always a process that pretty much happens in quarantine anyhow. It's usually I sit here with a drum computer and or sometimes with somebody else, but it's never, so that didn't really change that much. But what did change is the recording of the second half of the album was a little bit impacted by the coronavirus, because all of a sudden travel into the US wasn't possible anymore. And our producer, Andy Sneap, wanted to fly over from England and to work with us in person on the last 4 or 5 songs that we still had to finish up. And all of a sudden that wasn't possible anymore. So we had no choice but to have him online, sort of like we are doing right now. And he was able to listen in and make us suggestions and comments and do all that stuff. So he was basically producing from the UK while we were in Nashville, Tennessee.
Do you have a favorite track off this set, which I know is so hard because they're all like your babies?
Sure. I mean, it's no, I don't. I mean, well, yeah, one song I'm quite proud of and that I'm really happy with is "The Best Is Yet to Come." It's sort of an unusual track for us. It's almost like a ballad. It's more of a slow song. It's not your typical ballad, but it's definitely a slower song, and I think it turned out really, really well. Mark has done a phenomenal job singing that song, and I think the lyrics and everything turned out really well.
Your producer, Andy, is known for working with a bunch of different great metal bands like Judas Priest and you guys.
Hmm.
What do you think it is about Andy that he works so well with bands like you guys?
Well, he's just a metal fan through and through, and he's really, yeah, and there's a certain part of him that's still sort of a metal fan, you know. Like he told us, for instance, that he grew up listening to Accept, and you know, he bought, one of our Restless and Wild when it first came out in a colored vinyl, and that really made his day back then. And he told us that story many times. And then, you know, he's still that same guy in a way. Of course, he's a lot more experienced, a world class producer, but somehow deep inside, he's still a metal fan, and he wouldn't do anything. He's still. I think he has a lot of integrity too. I don't think he would produce anything that he doesn't personally like. Yeah, and over the years, he's really become like part of the family in a way, part of the band.
So, looking back on your time in Accept, do you have one moment that stands out as a big highlight?
Yeah, well, of course, there's the highlights along the way all the time. Awesome metal festivals that you always remember, and we played this 2-3 years ago. We played an awesome show in Wacken with a live orchestra. That was our first time we ever did that, and it was scary as hell because there was 80,000 people in the audience, and it was streamed worldwide live. So there was, I don't know how many million of people listening in. So there was a lot at stake during that show, but it all worked out perfectly. And it was one of those days that I'll never forget because, it was even perfect weather. The sun was setting while we were performing. It was just all gelling together really, really well. It's one of those standout shows. And of course, there was other memorable moments, but that is one of them.
Was there ever a time in Accept when you actually were worried that maybe you guys weren't going to make it through? Because I'm sure every band has that moment of challenge.
Yeah, well, there was a time when actually Accept didn't exist, from about 97 to 2009 or whatever. That's over 10 years. Yeah, when we didn't exist. And I basically walked away from the music business for a long time. I became a photographer, and then music got me back. And here I am, full force in music again. And the last 10 years, nothing but touring, recording, all that kind of stuff. But there definitely was a time when I thought, uh, metal is over, and I kind of lost interest there for a while in the late 90s.
What brought you back to music?
Well, the fact that we met Mark Tornillo and that we had, all of a sudden, we had an awesome singer at our hands, which we didn't have before because for the longest time, the band didn't exist because we didn't have a lead singer. Our lead singer, Udo, had his own project, wasn't interested in working with us. So there was really no perspective whatsoever. And other interests take over in life, and you kind of, but like they say, once a musician, always a musician. So when it calls you back, then you're you're right there.
Do you have any plans to release any solo stuff at all soon?
Not well. I've already done 2 solo albums, and the last one only in two years ago. So at some point, yes, but right now, no. I've just finished this album, but maybe in the future I will. Yeah.
So we recently lost the great Eddie Van Halen, which was such a big loss. What are your thoughts on losing Eddie?
Well, I never met him personally, but of course he was a legend, and he was a giant as a guitar player. I mean, he didn't influence me personally that much, but of course I know of his. He was like the god to a lot of people, and he's definitely changed the game for all of us. So he's definitely missed. Can say that.
How would you describe the musical chemistry in Accept right now?
I think we have a great, fantastic team together right now. And our newest addition is Phil Schaus, our third guitar player. Now we have a very unusual lineup right now, which is 3 guitar players, which is sort of unusual in the metal world, you know. But we took him on because we got to know Phil during an orchestra tour 2 years ago, and we discovered what a great player he is and how much fun it is to play with him. And when that tour was over, we didn't really want to let him go, and we figured, why can't we be 3 guitar players and accept? So that's a big change for us. Now than that, we've got great guys together right now. It's a perfect chemistry. I think it's the best we've ever had.
So what
Yeah.
are your thoughts on when live music might return kind of in a traditional form?
Well, that's anybody's guess, really. I mean, hopefully by this summer we can do some of the summer festivals that are scheduled. We have a bunch of scheduled festivals scheduled for July and maybe starting in June. I think it's June into August. So hopefully those can happen. But do I know any more than anybody else? No. We just got to wait until things get better and people get vaccinated, and I don't know what else. So we'll, don't know any more than you. We just got to wait for times to get better.
I know. I really hope it happens soon. Everyone's missing live music so much.
Yeah, and as a musician, of course, it's not only your livelihood, but it's really what you're there to do. I mean, it's not so much the financial loss, although that is huge, but it's also why you are a musician. You want to go out and play live to an audience. You don't want to just make live streams or record in a studio. That's just a small part of it. You want to really be out there in front of people, meet people, and get excited. It's nothing like being on stage.
Do you think when shows are back, would you ever consider getting some of the past members of Accept together and doing a big show or even recording something together?
Who knows? Time will tell.
So what's next for you next year?
We have to wait and see until we can tour again. That's what's next. Other than that, we've just released an album. So hopefully people can enjoy that new album and sort of use it until we can meet again in person. We wanted to release this album because we thought it's better for the fans to have it out and they can enjoy it. And even though we can't tour on it right now, but at least the album is there, because it's been 3 or 4 years since our last studio album anyhow. And there's really no point in letting it sit finished in the can, so to say, and postponing it just because we can't tour. We will tour as soon as we can, but right now I can't really predict when that is going to be.
What do you hope
All right.
fans take away from this record?
It's supposed to be a continuation of what we've done for almost 40 years. I think it's brand new songs in a very traditional or familiar way, but better and fresher and more exciting than ever. But it's really, we just make the music, we let the fans do the judgment. I don't really want to tell the fans what to expect. They just got to listen to it themselves and enjoy it.
Well, Wolf, it's been awesome hanging out. Thank you so much and stay safe.
Thank you very much. It's been my pleasure. How do you like my background, by the way? It's
I
pretty
love
awesome,
it.
isn't
It's great. It's very cryptic.
All right, take care.